Okay, folks, welcome to Randolph County Infirmary. Winchester's 2 miles that way. You can go right down 27 to get there. My name is Ted Martin. You're sitting right now on the very same foundation of the very first building that was built here in 1851. And it was built out of wood, okay? And it, of course, needless to say, they didn't have gas or electric back then. Your heat was fireplaces and your light was oil lamps and stuff like that. So you got old people, and some of them are mentally handicapped, dealing with fire. And so that's usually not a good combination. And so needless to say, after not very long, the very first building that was here burnt to the ground. Now I'll tell you right now, there were no casualties in that fire. And that's contrary to some stories that I've heard. Okay, I've heard stories that everybody was killed in a fire, and you got little crispy critter ghosts flying around. And that's just not true. It did not happen. So if you see a crispy critter ghost, they're from someplace else. Okay? I've never seen one, so I don't know. But so now you got, there was a grand total of 16 people that were here when it burnt down. And now you got 16 people that have no place to stay, no place to live. And so the county is responsible for their taking care of them. And so the first thing they got to do is build a new building for them quickly, and I mean quickly. Now this earth here underneath us, they make bricks out of it and clay tiles. Some of the first clay tiles for drainage in the whole country was made right here in Randolph County. And so, in other words, they're going to build a building, but they're going to make their bricks right here on site to save time, okay? Now, you have to get a brick up to 1,500 degrees for it to get the proper glaze on it, for it to be waterproof, okay? And they done it in such a hurry. When they're building the building is right across this driveway right here, on that area right over there. When they're building the building, they did it fast, and the bricks weren't hot enough, okay? And so from the very same day that they were building the building, it started melting anytime it would rain. And as a matter of fact, in the 1890s, we've got records of windows falling out of it, where the bricks would melt around the windows and they'd fall out, and all kinds of nasty things about it. So needless to say, people are complaining a great deal to the commissioners about it, okay? So the commissioners, being typical county commissioners, and I'm glad you got this on film, because I don't care whether they see it or not. Being typical county commissioners, what they're going to do is they're going to do something else to get your mind off of that problem, okay? So they decided that rather than throw money back into this building to try to fix it, which is a lost cause, they're going to do something else. So early in the 1890s, they done a brand new invention in this building, in that building over there, to take their mind off, people's minds off the problems. Okay? Do you know what that brand new invention was? It had nothing to do with electricity or anything. Okay? It was flush toilet.
Oh.
Okay?
Is that right?
So they put flush toilets in the basement of that building over there. And of course, they put them together with like pipe, you know, solid pipe. And of course today your toilets go into a septic tank, dry well, and all that. So in other words, it's pretty much filtered by the time it gets to a major river and stuff, you know. But at that time it wasn't. There was a pipe come out the side downstairs, and it went right straight from here to the creek down there, about a mile away from here. And that creek was called Salt Creek. Well, when I was a kid, I grew up on Salt Creek when it went through Winchester. And I'm telling you what, every once in a while there's floaties going down Salt Creek. And it wasn't really Salt Creek, okay? All right. And in the summertime, you're talking about smell bad.
Mm-hmm.
It is, because it wasn't just this place, it was everybody. It was straight piping into the creek, okay? There was Salt Creek on the east side of town and Sugar Creek on the other side of town. They both started with S, but both of them weren't, okay? They were pretty nasty. So you got a pipe down in the basement coming up from these toilets right through the wall, and it's about that far off the ground. So one of the old boys that lived over there decided he'd jump up and down on that pipe like a springboard, and it broke. And so now everything's flushing right out onto the floor in the basement over there.
Ew.
So they got big time problems, okay? And then that's when they decided they gotta do something else, you know? So in 1897, they got together and got to talking about, okay, what are we gonna do to take care of this? And that's when they got together and decided, hey, we still got that foundation over there from the old original building. Why don't we just shore that up and get us an engineer, and let's engineer a new building, then we'll extend that foundation to whatever we need, you know? And by 1898, they actually started doing that. Now, when we go on a walk in a little bit, I'll show you exactly where that old foundation quits and the new one took off. Because right underneath us is still the old original foundation, okay? So in 1899, it was done. This building was done. And people walked across the driveway and took in. I'm going to say probably 40 people moved in, okay? I don't know exactly how many. But I do know that since 1899 until this building closed in 2006, there was 1,498 people that went through this building. Now, one of the questions a lot of people ask me is how many people died here. I don't know. I have no idea. But we're looking at almost 1,500 people, and the majority of them are old or sick. And I'm going to tell you right now, at least 200 have died in this building, at least. And when you're out doing your ghost thing tonight, there are still spirits here. I know there's been a lot of natural deaths. I know there has been at least one murder, and I know there's been one hanging here, okay? I know that for a fact, all right? So.
What was the gentleman's name that was pushed out the window? Because I cannot remember.
Okay, that's John Oliver Champ.
John.
I couldn't remember either. I had to call Katie from Houston and ask her. But it was John Oliver Champ.
Okay.
He was 83 years old.
Yep. I know, I remember the story, but I just I think when we actually did the investigation last time, we couldn't remember what his name was.
John Oliver likes country music.
Okay.
So if you got something that's got country music in it, and you got lights and stuff on Ghost Protect, he'll actually touch them lights to the beat of music.
Oh, cool.
When they don't make a smart aleck remark to him like I did, because he'll quit doing it. He was sitting there, Hank Williams, he likes Hank Williams Sr.
Okay.
All right, and I asked him if he likes Hank Williams Jr., and he doesn't. I told him, I said, John Allen, I said, let's roll up a big one, let's turn on Pink Floyd, and we'll go to the dark side of the moon. He quit, he was done, right there. So that was the end of him. But the old guy's name was Willis Champ, that was hired on here as a farmhand, and his job was to feed the cows every night. And so Willis would go out there in the barn and climb up in the hay mow and get bales of hay and throw them out of that window clear over the top of that barn. And he was wearing gloves one day, and his gloves got caught in the binder twine. When he threw the bale out, he went out with it. And needless to say, when you see that window, you'll know it killed him. It did. Willis was 64, 65 years old. But the obituary says he died at Randolph County Hospital. He didn't. He died when he bounced off the wagon down here at the bottom of the barn. And then after Willis, then there was this woman, her son brought her out here. She had been by herself 8 years before her son brought her out here. And the problem was her name was Ida Gunkel. And Ida's husband had died 8 years before she was put in out here. And Ida's husband died of syphilis. And so needless to say, Ida's probably got syphilis. And this is how come her brain is fried. Because her son can't even take care of her. And he thought that this was a place for mentally handicapped people. So he brought her here and left her. Well, let me just back up just a little bit. Your caretakers here are people just like we are. They have a care for these people, you know. They actually care for them. But if you think they're trained psychiatrists or trained medical doctors or nurses, forget it. They're not. They're just like we are. I don't know, any of you might be, I don't know. But I'm not. And so, so what are you gonna do if you've got, let's say, a crazy woman here that's running up and down the halls screaming and crying and carrying on and messing herself, and it's on the floor, and she gets down and rolls in it and stuff. Can't you just see the old caretaker standing there saying, oh my God, what am I gonna do with that? And you can't tell me he didn't consider taking her out behind the barn and putting a bullet in her. I'm sure he probably did, but he didn't. I'll say that. But they didn't know what they were going to do with her either. But in the original building, and it's still here, okay? In the original building, down in the basement part of it, there's one room that's got bars in the window. It's the only room in the whole building that's got bars in the window. They never knew what it was for. Nobody knew what it was for. We still don't know why in the original building. But the old caretaker today then knew what he's going to do with it. With Ida running around here nuts. So he moved her down into that room and put her all of her bunk and clothes and everything else in there. And one night, of course, they'd always leave the door unlocked so she could wander around, go get her food and everything, and try to be sociable, because that's really what she needs, you know. And they know, but at night, the caretaker would always come and lock her door and close it. So one night, the caretaker's locking her door, and Ida asked Mrs. Thornburg, who was the caretaker at that time, which, by the way, Mrs. Thornburg is Ann DeWiggins' mother. Okay, so if anything moves off that shelf, that's Ann. Mm-hmm. So Ann's been associated with this place for a long time, okay? So Mrs. Thornburg comes by to shut the door, and Ida asks her for a broom. What's a broom gonna hurt? It's in the basement, for crying out loud. She probably needs a broom, you know? So Mrs. Thornburg goes and gets her a broom, hands it into her, pulls the door shut, locks it. Mrs. Thornburg comes up and goes to bed. All right, Mrs. Thornburg gets up 5 o'clock the next morning and goes back down there to let Ida out for breakfast. And Ida is ripped off a piece of the ticking off of her mattress and tied it around that broom and stuck that broom across 2 pipes that are running parallel across the ceiling. And then Ida gets up on her bunk, and as tall as she probably was, her head had to be over these pipes. And she wraps that ticking around her neck and steps off her bunk. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, yes, it did kill her. When Mrs. Thornburg come down the next morning, Ida's feet are on the ground. So either that ticking stressed or she didn't tie it off right, okay? But Ida is leaning at a 45-degree angle forwards. So in other words, when she first stepped off, it didn't break her neck.
Yeah.
Her death certificate says she died of strangulation. Mm-hmm. She did not break her neck. All right, and when you hang somebody or yourself, that's what you got to do, or you're going to suffer. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's so sad.
So Ida is on the floor, and she actually, on purpose, leans forward into that and chokes herself to death. And yeah, she's nuts. Okay, that's how come she don't like me, because I tell you her real story.
Okay. Do you know what year that was, or around?
Yeah, 1938.
Okay.
After around 1938. And of course, her son had left her here thinking that, you know, she was gonna get the proper care and everything. And he didn't realize there was nobody here that was trained to do anything. Well, he lost Mom, okay? But it might have been a blessing in disguise for their whole family, because she wasn't gonna get no better. You know, she was gonna get worse, because at that time there was no cure for that.
Right.
And it was just nasty. It was a sad story. And I've modified that, okay, because it just did. Well, it wasn't more than a couple of years after that, I'm gonna say before, right around 1940, there was an old retired judge that came here. And the old retired judge has got money. He's paying his own way. Nobody else has to. But he's got enough money, he could have lived any place. But he likes people. He likes to associate with people. And he liked it out here. So he's paying for his own room and board here. You know? And he is a judge, by the way. Now he's retired. He has no authority left anymore, you know. But people out here don't realize that, you know. And so if there's any little petty thing like petty theft or little squabbles or anything, you know, they'd all come to the judge. And the judge would actually have little trials, little hearings up in the attic. And I'll show you exactly where that is, okay, later. And there was trouble here occasionally, okay. Well, this was right before World War II, okay. And of course, then the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And the judge went to Studi, the caretaker here at that time, and said, Studi, we're gonna have problems out here. He said, we're gonna have people here we don't like, that we can't handle. Because he's thinking about draft dodgers and stuff like that, you know. And when back in my day, there was definitely a draft, you know. And some of us didn't matter. You're going to go no matter what, you know. But at that time, some of the draft dodgers and stuff, if you were a blown out alcoholic, you didn't have to get drafted. Now, do you know why? If you're an alcoholic during World War II, they didn't draft you. And this is true. They didn't. When you're in the Army Infantry, were you in the service?
No.
Okay, when you're in the Army Infantry, you're going to be in a foxhole at one time or the other, okay? But you never go in a foxhole by yourself. You've always got a buddy with you. So in other words, one of you can sleep while the other one's watching. Are you going to trust an alcoholic to watch over you? Neither did anybody else. So they just didn't draft them. And so they're actually pretty much useless people, okay? Nobody will hire them either. So they had no choice. When they didn't get drafted, they came back home and they had no place to live, no jobs, no nothing, so they took them in here. Now there were some of them that were just useless. But the judge had talked Studi into going to Winchester and buying a jail cell out of the county jail up there, and they brought it out here. And it's up here on the second floor today. It's still here. That's been in there since 1940 or 41. And it's solid. Well, Nick Gross spent his on that 72 or 78 hours, him and Katrina Weidman, when they were doing that paranormal lockdown, you know. Well, Nick spent his first night down in the kitchen and his second night in that jail cell. And he'll tell you right on the show, there was more activity outside that jail cell, up and down the hall, than you can imagine. It freaked him out. It really did. You don't
well,
see.
I hope something happens tonight, because that is one of the only places that we got nothing when we were here.
Is that right?
I was so disappointed.
Well, put your sleeping bag in there on that bunk.
That's what we were
jail
talking
cell.
about doing.
Stay sleeping there.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do, for sure. Yeah, I was so excited to go in there, because I've never been in a cell before. Nothing happened.
I have been, and I'm not excited to go in. I was a child of the 1960s, okay? I was a teenager in the 60s. I was in college in Louisville in 1960s. And because one night they didn't like me being smoked up to my gills and drunk and climbing a light pole and shinnying out over and unscrewing the light bulb in a trailer park, the police come and got me. And they took me to the drunk tank in Louisville. and put me away.
Yeah.
And, you know, we was all joking and laughing and carrying on the way up to the jail, me and the cops. We was having fun, you know, until they shut that door on you. And you turn around and look, and there's these old one-eyed guys sitting in that drunk tank, and they're slobbering and everything else. It ain't fun no more. All you can think is hurry up morning, you know.
Yeah.
So there I just told on myself.
There you go.
Yeah, I got busted.
Do you know what the judge's name was?
No.
Oh, no, you don't?
I do not.
Okay.
I think any reference I've ever seen is the judge. And so everybody knew who he was.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have any reference to him whatsoever. I will find out someday.
Yeah.
Because I'm still affiliated with the museum.
Yeah.
Randolph County Museum in Winchester.
Because we had some names come through, but Katie, nobody could tell us what his name might be. So
I've got a book out in the car that I'll bring in here and leave for you.
Okay.
It's got the list of everybody that was ever in this building.
Ooh.
This building. Okay?
Okay.
I'll bring it back in and leave it in here. I don't like to leave it here because somebody will swipe it.
Right.
I know they will. I've threatened to copy it and sell books, sell copies of it.
Yeah.
But I'd probably have to have more for it than what people are going to pay.
Yeah.
Because it's the actual information. Even got the name of the caretakers from the beginning to the end and everything.
We'll
Okay,
take
so
good
you
care
got
of
the
it.
judge, and now we got these blown out that came back from the draft that didn't make it, and they are troublemakers, all right? And so the judge would have trials on them and everything. They were actually going back and forth between the floors upstairs, between the men and the women's side. And men, by the way, are always on the south side. The way to remember that, if you look out the window and you see where you're parked, you're on the men's side. Okay, the women are always on the north side. Now, do you know why that is? You would think that'd be the cold side, right? But that wasn't their intentions. When they built this building, they actually put double walls on the south side. And they thought, you know, it'll be warmer over on the north side. And they thought, okay, it'll be warmer over there. They were thinking insulation and stuff, but they didn't really do it, okay? And so they put the men on the south side and the women on the north side. All right, guess which way the sun comes from? And the sun always comes in the south window, even in the winter, okay? So the men come out ahead than the women did, okay? Now, when we go on our tour, you'll notice in the women's side that the rooms are a little bit bigger, all right? In the beginning, when this place was not segregated due to gender, and it never has been race segregated, never, okay? But it was segregated due to gender, and I'll tell you a story about that when we get further along, okay? It's a sad story, it really is. The rooms on the women's side are a little bit bigger than the men's side. They're not wider, they're just longer. Okay, to give you a quick example and make it faster, during World War II, okay, men are overseas fighting for their country. Women are losing their property at home because nobody can make house payments. And I curse our government to this day because of that. If you're a soldier overseas fighting, the last thing you need to worry about your wife and kids losing their property. That should be the farthest thing from your mind, because you got to stay alive, you know. But that wasn't the case in World War II. They would let them repossess their properties and basically throw them out in the street. And so here's mom and the kids all being thrown out in the street. They have no place to live, so they come here. And so they would let the kids stay in the same room with mom. Thank goodness. I got a story upstairs about a little boy who was in here with his mother, and he got the measles and died. And I don't know how old the boy children had to be before they moved them to the men's side. I figured 12, because biblically, you're considered basically an adult at 12. You know, so I figured 12. This place was ran by biblical guidelines more than anything else. So Oh, I'll tell you a story about Doris now. Then we'll go on a walk. Okay, Doris was, at this time, was a little 11-year-old girl. And she had 2 older sisters. And her parents used to be in here, okay? And they finally got on their feet and got them a property down the road, down here someplace. Well, Doris's parents and the girl's parents were killed in an automobile accident. This is like, I think in the 1920s, something. And they were killed in, of course, the highway was here still at that time. And they were killed in an automobile accident. And I don't know if Doris was injured then or not. I've heard that when she was little, she got kicked in the head by a mule. But I can't prove that. But I've been told that, okay? But Doris could not speak plain. Okay, she stuttered and couldn't talk plain. So her sisters, they're still young enough that they want adopted. Okay, but they never thought Doris would ever be adopted because she can't talk plain. So her sister brought her down here and dumped her on these steps right outside there, and then went away and left her. And so the caretakers took her in. And of course, they asked her, nobody here that lived here has to work. No, if you want to sit and look out the window all day, that's your prerogative. You don't have to do anything. But most of them are asked, do you want to help us here? You know, because there's a lot of cleaning, a lot of cooking, a lot of caretaking and stuff that needs done here. And the county's not going to let you hire outside help. Okay? So most of them are asked if they want a job. So they asked Doris, thinking, yeah, she'll help us clean, you know. She didn't want to clean, she wanted to cook. She's 11 years old, and she was a good cook at 11 years old. And so they put her right down in the kitchen with this lady by the name of Mary, who I happen to know was a black lady, and she was a tremendous cook. She was the main cook at that time. And Doris is working with her the whole time. Well, Doris wound up staying the cook and became the head cook, and Doris lived here the rest of her life. All right, she was a sweetheart. She's a church lady, and she was real. I personally knew Doris before she died. All right, everybody loved Doris. She was a great thing. Okay, and so Doris is probably the best cook. She could make that green bean casserole with the soup on it. You know, she could make that, crumble them French onion things up on. I mean, that was the most delicious thing you ever ate. People that had church socials would ask her to come and cook just because she's that good, okay? And I've ate a lot of her food. I'd go out of my way to get her food. It was good. I hate to say this, Mom, but it was better than yours. But she was a great lady. Well, Doris died in a room right down the hall down here on the first floor. I think she was 74. She died in 2014 in a room right down here. And I think she had that type of stuff. I'm going to say pneumonia. It had the same thing, but that's what she died of. Now, she had one kinky thing. All right, Doris loved dolls. Okay, and she had a collection of dolls. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if dolls freak you out, you're in trouble. Because there's a room down there that's clear full of some of her dolls. And some of them in there aren't hers either. They're just ones that's been put in there. Okay? But because I get some people here that just can't even go in there because of the dolls, I put a little human relief in there. You know them things that come down the wall that your wires run through the metal, the casings and your conduits, you know? I took a Barbie doll and got her wrapped around a conduit and stuck a $1 bill down the front and make it look like a pole dance. So if you go in there and you start laughing, then you're not so near afraid of the dolls. Well, I found out from Katie yesterday, before I left, Barbie had made $27. Katie told me yesterday she's up to 34. Good girl, Barbie, keep going. So that's pretty much it. Let's go on a walk, and once we go on the walk, then I'll tell you stories, different stories about the rooms. Now, I've cut this back about half, okay? because Tim and Katie both told me I was taking way too long.
So we're gonna go ahead and go out in the barn while these guys go with you. Is there
Okay.
anything we need to know, or
Don't climb up in the haymow.
won't climb up in the hangar?
Please don't.
All right, and then the cemetery is right behind it. There's no headstones, right? It's just where the little.
I'll tell you this. Did they ever tell you the story about the people that are in it? There's 51 people buried in that cemetery just from this building.
Okay.
Okay? There's 51 people and one mummy.
Right. Yeah, I
You've
remember
heard
that
about
part.
the mummy?
Yeah.
Okay. Have any of the rest of you heard about the mummy? Well, the mummy actually came from Ansonia, Ohio. And it was a black man, an old black man that died over there at Ansonia. And you can look this up in the state of Ohio's history. This is true. This is actually part of their history, okay? This old black man died over there, and his name was Mose. That wasn't his real name, but that's what everybody called him. He's an old black man, so Mose, you know. And so nobody came to claim him after he died. Nobody knows who he is, actually, you know. And so there's two enterprising guys over there at Ansonia decided to use old Mose and make some money. So what they did, they took cloth and wrapped him up in that mummy type cloth, you know, and rolled him around the dirt a little bit to make it look old. And then they put old Mose in the back of their vehicles, and they traveled around to little towns around all over the area and set up a tent, put old Mose up in there, and was charging 10 cents a look for you to come in from that town and look at the real Egyptian mummy. Okay? And they would make good money off of it. Now keep in mind, Mose has not been embalmed, so what's Mose doing? He's rotten, isn't he? So he's stinking. He's getting really bad. So they get to the point where in Winchester, they actually set up a tent on the courthouse lawn. And people are lined up down the sidewalk to see the mummy. And people are going in, coming out, throwing up and everything else. This guy, he's rotten, you know. And some of the people got mad about it. And they went to the sheriff. And of course, you can't carry a stiff around and do that. That's against the law, you know. And so here comes the sheriff, and he busts these two guys that are carrying him around. Now they got Mose. What are they going to do with Mose? Okay? Well, they know this is a pauper cemetery out here, so they bring old Mose out here and they bury him. Now, I got no idea where he's at, but I know he's out there. So when I tell you there's 51 people and one mummy out there, I'm not lying. I'm telling you the truth. Mose is out there someplace.
Does he have a headstone?
There's no
No
headstone.
headstone.
Okay, when you die here, the county's gonna bury you unless family comes and gets you, you know?
Cheap.
And what they used to do, if you die in one of the rooms, they'd haul a gurney down there and chuck you on that gurney in a wooden box. Then they bring the wooden box up here. You see the things around these are called witches' hat towers. Yeah. They chuck you that wooden box on a table right there. Then they get volunteers from here to sit on that bench. They're not embalmed. They get volunteers. So how do they know you're dead? For sure. So they would get volunteers from here to sit on that bench for 24 hours and watch that person to make sure they didn't wake up. And that's why it's called a wake. They used to not embalm people, and they get somebody to sit and watch them for 24 hours to make sure they didn't wake up.
Never heard of it.
Diabetes has a stage on it to where if you're really in trouble, you'll get down to almost 0 heartbeats.
Right.
And a lot of people were buried alive because of that.
Right. I never heard the wake part, but I'd heard the ring, Saved by the Bell. I knew what that was about, but I'd never heard about
Or the
it.
dead ringer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
That's true stories. That was real. That used to happen. I know the wake part is real because my real grandfather died when he was only 39 years old. And my dad was only 12. And my grandmother stuck my dad in the same room in the house with his dad laying there in a box, dead, to watch him. And it bothered my dad the rest of his life.
I'll bet it did.
Yeah, of course, my dad's gone now too.
All right, well, what time do you think we should be back here to meet up with these guys to have our plan? How long do you think you'll take?
What, to go around?
Yeah.
I can do it in an hour, I can do it in 2 hours. Tell me.
What do you guys, how long do you wanna?
It don't
It's
matter.
gonna be at least an hour.
An hour? Okay,
that's
so
fine.
it's 7 o'clock now. We'll check back at 8.
Okay.
And then you've got to set up all your wires. If you could do the basement first so we can start in the basement.
Okay. All right. Yep.
All right, so we'll come back.
We'll take off and go this way.
It's cool down there.
Yeah,
Now,
It feels pretty good.
back during World War II, when ladies and kids were losing their properties, okay, I told you the men are always right above us on this side, you know. Well, they're not gonna stick women and kids down here in this basement. So they asked some of them guys up there if they would come down here and live in this basement and let them have let women and kids have their room, and some of them volunteered, they did it. So back during World War II, you got men living down here.
Wow.
Now, I don't know how advanced you guys are into the paranormal stuff, but if you know anything about scrying, personally, I wish you wouldn't, because that lets crap out from the underworld. We don't want that
No.
in here. But if you know what you're doing, there's a mirror you can use for that. But if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to put stuff back that you let loose, I'd rather you didn't.
Yeah, I don't do little one years.
Because we don't think we've got anything demonic here whatsoever. Okay, so let's move on. Now, when there wasn't somebody living down here, they used to look like any other basement for storage and stuff like that, okay? Like right there's one of the rooms, you can tell. I just can't imagine living in down here.
No.
I lived in a basement in Louisville, but it wasn't nothing like this. It was finished, it was nice. All right, now take a look at this room. Guess whose room this is? You guys are listening to me upstairs. Whose room is this? This is Ida's. Now, when I left in July, the bunk wasn't here. So they moved furniture in here, put curtains up, and the flowers were here. There's your bars. It's the only room in that building. There's a broom. They didn't store their broom right there, so you know what she done with the broom. And she stood right here. And underneath here, there should be a mattress. And she ripped a strip of that mattress off to make like a rope out of it, you know, and tied it around that broom. Then she stood on here and tied it around her neck and stepped off. Now, let's say she's your height. If you stand on that, your head's going to be above them pipes. So that's how tall, that's how much of a drop she had. Okay? And it did not break her neck. All right? I think she mistied it. I don't think it's stretched that much, okay? But her feet's on the ground, and she's leaning forward to about a 45-degree angle with that thing stretched around her neck, tight from that. And you think that broom handle won't hold you? Yes, it will. I've hung from it several times. And yes, it will hold you. Of course, you're not looking at that big of a drop either. But this is Ida's room. And I personally have got things from EVPs up right here. Well, she wants me dead. She doesn't like me. So after I found out she didn't like me, I pulled a chair in here and sat in here with a Bible and read to her one night. Since then, she's left me alone. So let's move on. This is going to be kind of quick. You guys are going to be here all night. You have plenty of time. Here's just another room. This is just another room. Now you can't get in that door. It's frozen shut. What there is in here is just like a little workshop.
Oh, cool.
Walter Ryan Armstrong. You got SLS camera. You'll see Walter Ryan right here, like he's swinging a hammer, okay? And if you don't find him right here, he'll be against that wall right back there, Or you might find him right up there for some reason, I have no idea, or on that right there. Now, what they used to do, Walter Ryan actually retired from the same place that I worked for 40-some years, but Walter's an alcoholic, so he's in and out of here several times, okay? But what they used to do was let their better mental patients come down here and work, and they thought that they were doing something. Well, look what they were doing. Let's get a handful of screws and put them in right here, row after row after row. Then let's come over here and let's fix this bench right here. All right, now there's no drivers in. This is all done by hand, okay? And then let's fix the bench again right there, okay? And let's drive a ton of nails across here. And then let's nail this baby up so it never comes down. And then you got Walter Ryan sitting here like this, so who do you think done some of this? Okay. Right there's his name. It's been written here on a piece of paper. And I just left it there. All right. Now, you see the slanted wall? There's 6 rooms in this building that's got a slanted wall. And what they did was every room that's got a slanted wall was either a workshop area or a medical area, okay? Now, right there's a laundry chute right behind you. Now, the laundry's down here, but it's not on this side of the building, okay? So, what they do, they drop their dirty clothes from the 2 floors above us, and they come right down here, and they just pick them up and carry them off, go to the laundry. They did that so they didn't have to carry contaminated clothing through the building. Right above us is a tuberculosis or cholera room, okay? It was bad news. And that's one of the biggest reasons why the thing's right here, okay? So we'll go on from here. Now, I gotta tell you, because I know somebody will find this tonight. That's real hair, okay? What happened was I had a lady about a little bit taller than you that had long blonde hair come around here. She's walking underneath this, and she got her hair tied underneath that somehow. And I'm sitting over there on the counter telling the story, and I seen her get her hair caught, and she's starting to panic. She thinks a ghost has got her. She's convinced a ghost has got her, you know. And she finally goes like that, and a chunk of hair fell out on the floor, you know. That's not a wig, that's real, okay? She's scared, she's starting to cry and everything else, and I couldn't help myself. I seen what had her. I started laughing. I thought it was hilarious. And boy, she got mad at me. She didn't speak to me the rest of the time I was here. She really did, but it was funny. It was so stupid, it was funny. Because I seen what had her.
Yeah.
So, she started to bend down there and pick that hair up, and I said, nope, you leave that there. Why? Because I'm going to frame that and put it up there in the wall as a trophy. And that didn't make her matter. She was still mad. So be it. This little room right here is a delousing room. People come in from underneath bridges and everything else. There was a toilet right here. There's a shower right here. And so what they do, they put that stuff all over you to kill lice. Then they stand them in the shower and wash it off. And when water would hit some of that delousing stuff, it'd make you sick to your stomach. So there's a toilet to puke in. So that's all this was. There's been thousands and millions of little creatures killed in this room right here.
I'm sure it burnt too.
This is just a chimney clean out. Now our furnace, this is the furnace room. Now if you want to go in there, that's up to you, nobody cares. But just be very careful because the handle don't work from the inside. And it'll be 5 o'clock tomorrow night before I'm back out here to let you out.
Gotta be one way to spend the night.
My personal thing is that I wouldn't mess with it.
No.
Okay? Of course, this is just a coal room. You've probably seen that little building outside. that you probably didn't know what it was when you could see it from right here.
Mm-hmm.
That little cement building.
Oh, yeah.
What it was, they dumped coal in that, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
go right in there. And there was a guy last night actually picked some of this coal up and put it in his pocket and took it home.
Wow.
That's up to him, I don't care. But you can see where it come in from above or in the front, right there. And this is clear full of coal in here at that time. And we found several empty whiskey bottles in here. A lot of these people out here, men especially, were alcoholics. And they were out here, they were basically out here to dry out, and they weren't allowed to have any booze or anything. So they had deals worked out with people delivering coal. They'd bring them little pint bottles and stuff, and they would help volunteer to unload the coal trucks. Okay. That's a new wall. There used to be a great big boiler in there before they put the gas furnaces in. And the boiler came clear out into here. And then after they got the boiler out of here, they put that up in there and put coal, new gas furnaces in. Now I'll tell you this, that panel right there, that is still very much 100% alive. It still handles the electricity in this building, so don't get against anything. Okay. Now, see this? Back in 1906, I had a woman from Illinois call me and says, "Who is Anthony 06? I don't know. I had a lady from Grand Rapids, Michigan call me. "Who is Tony 06? I don't know, but you're the second person that asked me, so I'll find out." Well, I found out. Why don't you look right here? See the A? And you can kind of see underneath it, it does say Anthony underneath there. You can take a scraping, a rubbing on it, and it'll say Anthony, okay? And what I found out in 1906, there was a black man here. His name was Anthony Davis, just like the NBA All-Star today, you know. There was an Anthony Davis lived here. And his bunk was right here. His job was to take care of the coal in the boiler and keep the heat up and keep the temperature up. And so he slept right here. One of them little bunks you've seen will fit in here. It's probably the warmest place in the building, I would say, because right there's your coal and right there's the furnaces. And his job is to keep them, you know. And so Anthony might talk to you. He has twice that I know of. Okay. Now, I'm going to warn you, I'm going to make a loud noise here in just a minute. So I'm going to tell you I'm going to do it. So don't scare you to death, okay? You know what that means?
Dinner.
That means either get up or dinner's ready or it's time to turn the lights off. It went off several times a day and it's not on no timer. It has to be pushed. Right here it is. If you want to freak somebody, scare the hell out of somebody, that'll do it right there. Right there. Alright, your creeper, little guy is in this room. He's a little black thing. I've got a picture of him. He was right here along this crack, and you can see him contrasted against the wall. He's about knee high, and he looks like an octopus, and he's black as coal. And he's got feet off on every tentacle, okay? And he can go right up the wall, right across the ceilings, right across the walls, up and down, and he's completely harmless, okay? He's PK. You know what PK is? You know when you think you see something out the corner of your eye, but it's not really there? If you keep thinking that you really did see something, humans have the ability to create what they think they see. And this little guy down here is PK. He's nothing demonic. He really, I get people come from all over the country to just set up around that table right there and try to film him. Some of them have, some of them haven't. I don't know if you saw that show, Kindred Spirits, from Amy Bruni and his name.
Adam, I think.
You know who I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
They were right outside the door getting ready to come in. and Amy squealed and grabbed him. Remember that? She seen it. That was what the problem was. But this is 90 times % of the time he's in this room. This is the men's dining room. They gotta come down from all over this building here to eat their meals, okay? The men. This is segregated, okay? The ladies are in that room over there. Okay, here's your kitchen. I'll turn the light on so we can see better in here. Right here's Doris Addington. Remember your little 11-year-old girl? Right there's Doris. She looks like everybody's grandma.
Yes, you do.
And she's a sweetheart. She really is. You can sit right here around this table and talk to her out here with your machines. And sometimes she'll talk to you, sometimes she'll talk to you in the room upstairs she died in. That Nick Groff and Katrina Weidman, that paranormal lockdown, that first night, Nick's bunk was right here. Okay? You remember, if you've seen that show, you remember he kept hearing something in here? And he went and got Katrina, and he got, what's his name, it was upstairs, Grant?
Yeah.
He got them both down here, and they're walking around trying to figure out what it was he heard. And finally, they figured it out. There's a spirit that actually got a hold of this handle and was doing that. If you're trying to sleep right there, you're definitely gonna hear that.
Right.
And I remember on that show, Greg telling Nick, if you got a spirit that's got that much energy, you might have your hands full.
Yep.
All right? That's what it was. It was waking Nick up. It wouldn't let Nick sleep.
What are all these hymnals from?
Huh?
All these hymnals?
I don't know. Them were here when I was here last. Somebody over there brought, well, they probably know that Doris is a church lady, you know. We get a lot of Christians coming in here that are scared to death of this place. They think it's demonic. Or they think spirits are not Christian, they think they're demonic. A lot of people think that spirits are actually called familiar spirits, and they're connected with demonic stuff. My wife does, and she's a Christian scholar. She really is. And she thinks that spirits have actually been with you from the time you're born, and they know everything about you. And after you pass on or whatever, they're no longer involved with that, and I don't buy that. I think your soul is with you from forever, for eternity. I really believe
I
that.
believe that too.
And so a lot of Christians don't believe that, but I do, personally do. So I'm sure that these are down here because of that, and they know that Doris was such a church lady. Now you'll see all these coins and stuff laying here. People, it got to the point where people were taking the coins out of their pocket and stacking them up or putting them in different arrays. Then they come back and see if they've been moved. And then they just leave the coins, so I just started leaving them. There, you can play with them if you want to, you know. Katie was telling a story yesterday about some people here about 6 months ago that put a bunch of coins right there and went away through the building and done the thing and came back later and they found 5 poor nickels setting up like that after they came back.
Wow. It's neat.
Now, people leave Doris's leave her little notes and stuff like that, you know. But at least now you know what Doris looks like. We found that picture. Now don't put your hands in the sinks and just not pay attention, because there's wool spiders in them sinks about that big.
Yeah.
They get your attention.
Oh yeah.
All right, now, right here's the switch for this room, okay? I have no idea what happened is. This one is this vent. Can you imagine the size of the cook stove? It used to be right there. But you don't want to turn that vent on. Listen. So if you ain't expecting that, it gets a little weird. You know? But this, like I said, is a light switch for any. This is the ladies' dining room. Now, right now, when I usually have a little fun, I'm gonna use you, what's your name?
Julie.
Julie, I'm gonna use you. See this green paint? That is not lead free,
Oh, wow.
so don't lick the walls,
Okay.
okay? Now, the rest of it on the outside is latex, that's how come it's all peeled off. But the underlayment, the green paint, is not,
Okay.
okay? Good. If you lick the wall, you start slobbering and rolling around the floor.
I kind of gave up wall licking.
Now, we do have our own entity here, we call it the tall man. You see this mark right here? Actually, that's just where the door closes, but he's about that tall. And he likes to hide behind this door. So if you're coming from that way, you wanna make sure you take a picture of this door, because a lot of times he hides behind this door and peeks around it and watches you. Okay?
Do we know his name?
I just call him the tall man, that's all any of us call him. And that door right there has slammed shut before, and there's not enough wind down here to cause that to happen. So we figure it's a tall man.
Is that the door that kept slamming shut on Destination Fear, I think it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you seen Chelsea then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, down that hall right there, we just came down, right outside of Ida's room.
Mm-hmm.
That's where she was sitting along
Yeah.
the wall and got up screaming and crying and took off.
Yep.
Because that's her trademark.
Yeah.
Is to be an idiot.
Said, yeah. She heard something, supposedly.
I don't think you'll ever get her to come back here because she wasn't kidding.
Yeah.
She was terrified.
She was crying on film.
I've got a Destination Fear shirt, but I don't even wear it because to me she's embarrassing. See that? That needs to set in my living room with a new coat of black paint on it. I think that'd be the coolest decoration I could ever have.
Right. Yep.
And that is an 1898 coal-fired water heater.
Wow.
That's original with the building.
Wow.
That's nice.
And I want that in my living room so bad, I can't hardly stand it. And Dan keeps saying, take it if you want it. Yeah, right. How am I said, I'll have to bust them windows out to get it out. Cause that thing got to weigh a ton.
Yep.
You know, he knows all them pipes and everything, there's no electricity or gas going to it. All them pipes are water. And somebody stole the original gauge, and there's a glass tube that went right there. And they got the glass tube and the original gauge. Well, we ain't been able to find the glass tube to put back on there. But Dan did find a new gauge to put on it, another gauge to put. But that is one of the coolest things I think in the building.
Yeah.
I like that. I want
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I told Dan, if you ever fire me, you're gonna lose that. If I gotta take it out in pieces, it's going with me. This is your laundry room. Of course, men and women are both allowed to come down here and do their laundry, okay? And there's your original water source into the laundry room. And of course, that pump will still work today if I put new leathers in it. If I put new leathers in it and prime it, it will still work. Because it's hooked to a cistern outside, and that cistern's square full. But I'm not gonna fix the pump because everybody come down here, we'd have water.
Yeah.
When did this close?
2006
Okay.
was the last year that it was open.
That's fairly recent. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it'd still be open today if it made money, but nursing homes done it in.
Yeah.
You know, because remember I told you there's no doctors or nurses walking around out here. They're just people with good hearts, and that's it. That only goes so far if you need help.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like that iron, I know it's got electric wire on it, but it's still an antique. This is an example of what the first electric iron used to be. Basically, it's heavy.
Yeah, my grandma had one just like that.
So, we move on. She's coming back in there at 8 or 8:30. We going to be halfway through the building. When there were 91 people in this place, they put a toilet wherever they could put one, you know? So underneath the staircase where old Davis slept down there on the other side, they put a toilet on this side, underneath the staircase. Now I'll show you where the old foundation ends and the new one. Doris, we're going on. Now you entertain these folks tonight, will you? Let them know you're here, dear. See you later. I'll be here tomorrow night. All right, now here's another room with a slanted wall. Okay, this was a medical supply room. Okay, remember I said all them rooms are medical rooms or whatever? This is a medical supply room. It's cool. They can keep medical supplies here. Now see that? Everything from that to this way is new. Okay? Every place from right there that way is 1851. That's the old foundation, that's way. All right, from here on is 1898 or 99. Come in here. Are you a mason?
No.
No? Well, look right there. Wow. See this old west door? This was the west entrance into the building, the original building.
Yep.
And it proves to you that the Masonic Masons built the building. And I would love to know what's behind that block.
Yeah.
But that would get me fired quicker than anything else.
Sure.
Yeah. But this was the original west way in, right here. And that building that's out back was a slaughterhouse. So they would kill their beef or hogs or chickens out there and carry them right through this door into the meat room, which is on the other side. You see there was a window right there. Okay, so now we'll go to the meat room. See this chopping block?
Wow.
See the meat hooks up above it?
Mm-hmm.
They're no original. So's this. In 1851, this was an oak tree out in the backyard. There have been a lot of chickens lose their head on there probably. What they used to do would bring like a hog in here, hang him up there and cut him up, roll it in brown paper and put it right in the cooler.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Of course, that was an ice box at that time, since it's been converted into electric. And it would still work if we turn it back on. But I know this was originally here, because there's a window with light right there, there's a window with light right there, and beside that we found the meat hooks. So I know this was where it was.
Wow.
Forget how they cleaned up the floor.
How they what?
How they cleaned the floor.
Well, they put this cement floor in after some other things. Now listen to this story, because you'll find out why they put the cement floor in. In 1920, in the 1920s, early, there was a cholera epidemic in Randolph County, okay? Well, cholera will kill you quicker than COVID, okay? And, of course, this is bad news, really bad news. And there was only like 2 funeral parlors in all the county, all right? So the county commissioners worked out a deal, because the county owns this building.
Yeah.
County said to the ambulance people, if you go pick up a stiff, you try to get them into the morticians. And if you can't, we will allow you to bring them out here. And they dump them and stack them right along that wall, right there.
Wow.
Start breathing naked and dead. You're in a pile right there. Okay? And then after a while, a couple of morticians got to thinking, well, why don't we put an embalming table out here?
Yeah.
And so they went together and they bought an embalming table. That's definitely not it. Okay? That's just there as a representation for it. Okay? So we're gonna say this is an embalming table. Now, you notice there's no drains in the floor, no nothing, so where's the blood and guts and stuff going? It's going on the floor.
Right, that was my point with the slaughter.
Yeah, so everything's going on the floor. So here's your mortician draining blood out of dead people and
Next
pumping
to your
embalming
chickens.
fluid into them right there. Well, somebody's cleaning the hog or chicken over there with the meat, okay? And so what the old morticians would do was they wouldn't allow you to have a funeral for these people because it was just like COVID, you know. So what the morticians would do, they would get somebody down there that maybe wasn't dead with cholera and his family wanted a funeral, but he is dead. He had a heart attack or something, you know. His family wants a funeral.
Right.
But he's laying in a pile with people that's got cholera.
Right.
So he's got cholera now, whether he
Sure.
wants it or not, okay? So they would pick him up, stick some money in their pocket from the family and say, hey, we want a funeral for him, and they give it. They get a funeral. So they take him right up here and they pump him full of embalming fluid. They roll him up in brown paper and they stick him right there in that cooler with pork chops to keep him until the family come and get him. Now, lo and behold, 3 old women out here got cholera and died. And word got out, and so everybody's saying, oh, it's food poisoning. Food poisoning, because they knew they were putting stiffs in there. They're saying it's food. If it had been food poisoning, there would have been 30 people dead.
Right.
Okay, so it couldn't have been food poisoning. What it really was you just came from the laundry. Okay, 3 old ladies have come down the steps carrying the dirty clothes right by these 2 doors right here. And if you think them doors will keep cholera in here, you better think again. You got dead people right there, and they're carrying their dirty clothes right by them, going to the laundry. Yes, they did get cholera, but they got it from here.
Right.
They didn't get it by food poisoning. But the word got out that it happened, and that was the end of the makeshift morgue out here. But it did really happen. It was less than a year that it was a makeshift morgue, but it really did happen. So I want you to be familiar with that. And I got something I want to read to you.
Cholera travels with water. I grew up in a community called Mount Healthy, and it was called that because it was a refuge of the cholera epidemic because it was up on the hill. So
you
they
know,
didn't-
cholera is basically caused by hog manure in your drinking water.
Yeah, and it travels in water.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hi, Ted. It's Kevin from Northeast Ohio Wraith Chasers. We caught the following names on our plasma box in the room used as a butcher shop in the basement. Maybe you recognize them. Rosemary Civet or Divot or Davis. Last name was hard to understand. Harry Sill, Eugene, Charles. We also got the name Martin, which is your last name. I said, wonderful. That room was crazy active. We also received the name Ida through the plasma box. When I asked how she heard herself, we caught a disembodied voice, not through the plasma box, say a room.
Oh, wow.
This is an active room.
Yeah.
And I heard her say, later, you're going to do this downstairs first. You may not even get to the rest of the building.
We might not.
This basement is incredible. It really is. I sat here one night, and of course I got a spirit box, a little spirit box. I had it running right there. And I took a chair and set it up in the cooler. And I didn't close the door. I left the door wide open, but I'm sitting in the cooler. And my son's sitting right here with the dead people along the floor. And I got 3 granddaughters who are sitting on the floor over there.
Wow.
And they've all got the long brown hair, real long pretty hair, you know. And they're leaning against this. And after 45 minutes, I had nothing. And I'm not that patient.
Yeah.
And so I come out there, I told my son, let's go. And so we shined the light on the girls, and all 3 of them girls were sitting there with mascara running down their faces. They'd been crying. All 3 of them been crying, and we didn't know it. I said, girls, what's the matter? Papa, somebody pulling our hair. We tried to leave 3 times, and they won't let us get up.
Oh, wow.
I said, okay, let's show me, and they would sit there and they showed me, and they were leaning with their hair against this rough edge on this plywood, and every time they'd move, her hair was getting stuck in there. I said, girls, you're gonna live, everything's fine, it's just that wood. Papa was a hero when he figured that out. The youngest one was about 14, the oldest one was 17. I've got 4 granddaughters.
Wow.
From about 16 to 22. Lord never gave me no grandsons. He gave me 4 granddaughters to punish me for all the nasty things I used to try to do them little girls. He knows I'm sitting on the front porch with a shotgun. It's just a storage room for canned goods, is all it is. Here you can see the door going into the meat room right there. See how low it is? Well, instead of cleaning up the floor like you asked about, in later years, they just dump about a foot of cement on the floor. See how short that door is? Imagine another foot. It'd make a heck of a difference. All right. And so in other words, today, if we would sell this building and bust up the cement on the floor, we could let cholera loose again today. Because it was never cleaned up. It was all just covered up with cement. But there was a lady that was down in the laundry room doing her laundry. There was a couple of guys down there giving her a bad time. And she was scared of them, so she took off running down the hall. And she tried to hide from them in here, and she didn't get away from them. They caught her in here and raped her. That's why the flower's here. That's for her. And a lot of people get a lot of voice activity in this room.
What was her name?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
All right, now, you heard me talking about Katrina a little bit ago, and Nick.
Yep.
Do you remember that show when she was sleeping here in the hallway? This is the hallway she was sleeping in, where her bunk was. If you notice on TV, you'll see that. Her bunk was right here.
Oh, okay.
And she got more guts than I've got. There ain't no way in the world I'd sleep down here. No, I wouldn't. I've seen too much stuff down here. I almost feel like a creeper running over top of me.
But if it's not demonic, what are you afraid of?
Just the idea.
Just the idea of it? Yeah.
It's not normal.
Yeah,
You.
definitely.
That, I have no idea what that's used for. You see, that's plywood. That definitely has been built on in later years. It's just a storage room is all it is. I will do this and we'll go to the next floor. Now you see the cement patch in the floor?
Yeah.
All right, now all this is underneath the kitchen right above us. As soon as you let through them doors, you left the asylum. Okay, now you're back in the superintendent's area. They use this for storage. That was like a little washroom and stuff like that in there. And you can see it right here. We probably won't go over there, but if you guys want to later, that's no problem. There's a little storage room right there. There's a storage room there. There's strings hanging down from the ceiling, so there's lights in there. But over here, this is a different story. You see the cement patch? Okay, come on in here. See how the cement patch kind of tries to form a rectangle right here? And it's all going into the drain. What there was a trough right there, like in a barn. And you all seen that, and you know what that's for, right? Okay, at one time, what if they got an axe murder or somebody drops right here? They're not normal. So the county built a jail cell, and the jail cell went right here. And that trough was right there. You don't see no toilet facilities, do you? So now you know what the trough is used for, okay? And so then they were not the type of people that were meant to be here. And so as soon as they locked somebody away, they called the state police, and the state police would come together and take them on down to East Haven at Richmond, where they could take care of them. Now, you just hold, don't anybody wanna be a pole dancer. Cause what'll happen is, that's just holding that up there to hold the ceiling up. Now, what happens if you got two of these axe murderers? You put them both in the same cage, it's, well, somebody's gonna die, ain't they? So they brought the second one over here. And no, there's not another jail cell right there. If you look right here on the wall across the ceiling, you can see there's been something right here. Okay? What it was like fence, sliding door that went right there. And you put an axe killer back here and shut that door, you gonna trust that to hold him? I'm not. So they actually take him, and if you look right there, you can see that hole. And if you look, where's the other one? Right there, you see that hole. You notice how they're the same height? So there were shackles right here.
Wow.
And so they shackled this into the wall. And no, there's no toilet facilities here either, so it's running down his leg. Nobody had to spend the night shackled to the wall. The state cops is coming, okay, to get you out of here. So they got him shackled to the wall and now fenced in and locked, have a holding on it. Okay. A lot of people see something right here too, by the way. A lot of people see something that's hanging from that. Like a glow, like hanging from that. And what that is a gas line. This place used to have gas lights in every room. But I think they're seeing that. That's what I think they're seeing. Actually hanging from this, but it's not. That was never used. I really, don't you tell anybody, I just put my old bad tobacco down there. Well, I have heard music before down here.
Yeah.
I've been down here with a group like you folks, and we all hear music. And I said, please shut your cell phones off. Well, they're all shut off. Nobody's playing music. And you can hear like a real tinny piano and music, somebody singing, you know. Well, what used to be, they used to bring people out here and play piano and children to sing to these people.
Sure, yeah, they still do that.
And it's residual, it's still here occasionally. I thought it might be somebody parked across the street, put a radio on, and I looked and there wasn't a soul over there. And we walked out of here and you could still hear the music. I don't know how long it lasted. And I know some of them recorded it. Okay, so if you hear music in here recorded, it is residual. Okay, it's real. It's not nothing put on it. There's nothing here fake.
Right.
Anything you get here is absolutely real. Because we've had people try to set stuff up for us, you know. No, it's too obvious. Actually, they were thrown out. All right, let's go on to the rest of the building. That's the basement. I think you've seen enough of the basement. You probably could spend the whole night there. I turned the light on down there.
Thank you.
The light switch for down there, right there, is right here.
Okay.
Over here,
The men.
Yeah.
you're right. Okay, come on in here. Everything in this room is from this building, except the ammo case and this bed. This bed was bought at a garage sale and brought in. All right, we do have beds set up in here, but this is fake, okay? And once you look right above it, you see that hole in the ceiling, or in the wall right there? Why is that hole there? Keep in mind, this building's here before there's electricity.
Something like.
To get heat?
No,
No?
there was in later years, but what it really is you got oil lamps in here. I don't know if you've ever done an oil lamp, but everyone I ever had smokes and
Right.
stains, okay?
Yeah.
So they got oil lamps in here, so the hole's there to let the smoke out into the hallway. And you can open a window or a door at each end of that hallway and air it out. It's like a big air tunnel out there. And so back when they built this building in 1898, 99, the contractors were smart enough to know that they had to do that for every room. You'll see one of them vents like that in every resident room. And that's exactly what they're for. You know, something we don't even think about today. Don't have to. But all these foot lockers and stuff used to be residents. Foot lockers. And the other bedpan, there was at least one
I've
bed.
never seen anything like that before.
Foot
Doors
locker.
on it?
Yeah, and I'll tell you this right now, there are security cameras all through this building, and 90% of them you can't see, and that's on purpose. Okay, there's too many antiques in this building
Yeah.
to not do that.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
so let's move on. Sorry to be like that, but we have to. You know how easy it'd be to walk out with bedpans?
Sure.
When you take one of them to an antique dealer, you'd be surprised what you could get for one of them. They're expensive. This is the man's room. This is his whole life right here. Somebody's whole life is right here in this room. He don't have to stay in here, but a lot of them did. A lot of them pull a rocking chair or something up in front of that window and just sit there and look out the window all day. That's your life. That's terrible.
Sad.
And one of the caretakers here, the Burge family, who was the last one, she was kind of an artist, so she painted stuff on the walls to try to cheer it up a little bit, you know. So all the paintings you see on the wall are Mrs. Burgess. Okay, come on in here. This is basically like the room is set up. Now that's a dead girlie. If you died, they're gonna come get you on this, okay? I don't know why it's in this room. I'd put it in medical room. But their bed would be right here. Their foot locker would be right there. Their dresser would be right there. There would be a little round table right here next to the plug-in for a lamp. And then there's the heat. And there was a rocking chair usually sitting right here that they could see out the window with. This is, and every room is set up the same way, both men and women's. Okay? There's one of the original rocking chairs from probably the 60s. There's definitely original rocking chair. Now, right here's the laundry chute to the first floor. You throw your dirty clothes in here and you were just down in that room while they're going, okay? Now, come here. This is what blows my mind. This room right here is the medical room, right? See the slanted wall? There was a toilet right back there. You can see there's a medical room right above us. There was a toilet up there too. Needless to say, it don't work. None of them do anymore out here. Now, you could get 6 people in here. And it would be tough, but you can get 6 people in here. If you're in here, you probably ain't coming out. You've either got cholera or tuberculosis. You're probably going to die in this room. Look at the vent.
Closed.
Closed. Now, at least they're thinking the transom would have been closed too. The windows.
Sure.
But you got to strip the beds, and you know they're contaminated. So why didn't they put a door right here? Why did they fix it? Now they got to still drag it out there.
Yeah.
But this is 1899.
They probably didn't know.
At least they're thinking.
Yeah.
You come from that right there, you can tell they're coming the right way.
Yeah.
But they ain't there yet, not even close. So I'd have put a door right here. But there's none there. Of course, they had running water in the sick room naturally and everything about it. But if you're in the sick room, you probably ain't coming out. This is probably your last room you're ever gonna be in. And this is just a storage closet. And the water fountains do not work. There's no water on this end of the building at all. Now we'll go this way. That goes back down to the basement. This is the men's first floor restroom. Now at times it works, but it doesn't now. So this is what I said, if you use, I've got to clean it, and I'll send a bill you ain't gonna believe. So what do y'all think his room is?
Like a day room?
Now this is the men's first floor, okay? This is the men's first floor chapel. Now even the church is segregated, okay? Like floor and gender. Okay, right above us is the men's second floor church. Gender, or chapel, okay? Now, there are lights, like I said, in most of the room. So if you get freaked, you just turn the lights on. Okay. Right out there's a slaughterhouse.
Is that the barn where the men fell out the window?
No, we'll go upstairs to the second floor and you can see it real well. That barn is right over here. See the little garage over there?
Oh, yeah.
The garage, the big barn
Big
is right
barn.
on the other side of that, not that one, in front of that one.
Okay.
It's right there. You see this is your day room. This is your men's first floor day room. Now back in the day, you could still smoke in the building. The men were allowed to come in here and smoke, play cards and everything else. They couldn't take it back in their rooms. There's a fireplace right here, that went close to the wall, and it also heated the ladies' day room. There's where the people carried the handles from. First floor day.
That's a prettier view.
I can see the old boys sitting over there smoking their cigars and pipes and stuff, and playing poker, cussing at each other and carrying on, you know. And in later years, there was a TV in there. People say, well, what about the women? I said, I can sit here and see them playing poker, cussing, and swearing at each other too, just as much as I can to drive. Oh, yes they do. I've been around some of the roughest people I ever met with females.
In the car all day.
Now this thing right here is not a laundry chute, it's a pass-through into a sick room.
Okay.
Food tray, medical stuff, you know. Now, I'm going to ask you right now, the dolls freak anybody out? Okay, this is the room that Doris Addington passed away in 2014. And all the dolls that are on this shelf are hers. All the rest of them are ones that we brought in, okay? There's a couple dolls in here I just plain don't like. I see they've left them here too. That one right there, Scarlett O'Hara, I do not like her at all.
I don't like this baby.
I
don't like this baby.
Do you know how much that antique thing is probably worth?
Don't care, still don't like it.
There's one little baby down here that kind of looks like a monkey. I don't like.
Some in the closet too.
There should be some on that shelf in there.
Yeah.
One's set up. I set a trap up. I set a trap up for tall people, if they come in there and touch that, it falls over their head down their back. And I usually warn people, but some I don't. You can tell
The
here,
dumbasses.
there's an old refrigerator sitting here. That thing's old.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just some more of Dan's antiques. But this is the room that Doris does a lot of talking in. There's Barbie.
I noticed that right off the bat.
Pole dancing Barbie.
Yeah, I put that up there about a year and a half ago. She's made a lot of dollars. I stuffed a couple of dollars in. I stuffed one down the front and one up the back end.
That's
And
hilarious.
she has made lots of dollars sitting there.
Because she had a nice view out of her room.
Yeah, this is the room she passed away in.
It's a slanted room.
She was actually here several different times, but she came here at first in the early 1920s when she was only 11 years old. So she actually spent basically her entire life in this building.
She must have had a good experience here.
Well, I tell
Stay and
you,
be
one of the
close.
good things about it was, about her being a church lady, a lot of people offered to take her home with her, and she refused. Because her job was to cook
Right.
for these
This
people.
was her
out here.
home.
And this was her home. And let's face it don't cost anything.
Right.
You've got a roof over your head, your meals are free,
Mhm.
you know, and you've got some responsibility that you have to do. And so why would she want to live anyplace else? You know, back when they closed the place, that was one of the biggest problems. They actually put ads in the newspaper that said, this place is closed, people need someplace to go.
Right.
Well, most of people's families would come and get them and take them home. You would wonder the whole time, well, if they had family around here, why did they stay here? You know, people wanted to stay. It was free, and you can come and go as you please.
And
Yeah.
it sounds like all the caretakers were kind.
Everybody was
I
coming.
was afraid that there was gonna be horrible stories.
No,
You
there
know,
are no
and
horrible
I'm
stories.
glad that there
See how much bigger the ladies' rooms
Oh,
are?
yeah, they are. For the kids.
Okay, here we go. This is where I tell you about the little boy that was in here with his mother. The year is now 1943, and this little boy got the old-fashioned measles. And people used to die from that, you know. And the little fella died. His name is Noah, just like Noah's Ark. I can't tell you his last name, but his first name is Noah, and he will talk to you.
Yeah?
And he plays with the toys occasionally. He loves balls. Okay. But his name is Noah. And he was only 8 years old when he died.
Oh. I might try to come back here and connect with
That's
her.
why the chairs are in here.
Yeah,
Most people,
I feel something here with Noah.
well, Brandy Reeder used to work with us, and she got two almost teenage girls, and they can both see and hear things. And whenever they would come out here with Brandy, and little girls would come in here and
And
play with Noah. And then they'd come out and say, Mom, Noah needs toys. And that's when we started buying toys. But I'd say, get away from me. Don't talk to me. I don't want to know that. Those signs in here, that wasn't here when I left. If you want to move stuff around, move it.
I saw a little plastic lion on the windowsill in the basement. Or maybe it was in that day room.
All right, let's just go on up to the second floor now. That's about it for down here. Right here's where I usually tell people this. Don't forget, a lot of these people are in walkers and wheelchairs. So how in the world do they get down to that basement to get their meals? Very carefully and very slowly. Somebody's got to help them. And as people will look at me, I say either that or they sit there in that wheelchair and you get them up right back here and give one hell of a good push. And if it's big enough, you might make it to the basement. But they did, they got themselves up and down the steps. Or somebody, if they was in a wheelchair, somebody would help them. Right here is superintendent quarters. There's some carpet on the floor. Now this, I don't know, twist it and it turns on lights, okay? Just twist it. That's Dan and his twin brother's private room. They sleep in there. And in this room, in here, this can be you guys' sleeping quarters. Okay, this was the judge. You remember me telling you about the guy? Did I tell you about the guy that got shoved out the window? I did.
Yes.
Okay, this is the room you want to see clear. This is John Oliver Champ's room. John Oliver, remember me saying in World War II there were some chumps out here? John Oliver did not like the chumps whatsoever. And he gave them a bad time. He was ratting them out to the judge all the time, you know. And so they decided they'd get John Oliver. And they did. Okay, so one fall, when it was in the fall, and what year was that? 47 or 48, I think. They were doing a fall cleaning, and everybody was cleaning their rooms and washing windows and everything, inside and out. Well, this old guy's 83 years old. He's not climbing the ladder to do the outside, okay? So John Oliver's in here, and he washed all these windows. You can see beside the bird crap, this window is still pretty clean, okay? Nobody has ever washed this window, ever. John Oliver was the last guy that washed this window. And it's just the bottom is clean, because he couldn't get to the top. He did inside, but he opened the window, and then he's actually sitting here in the windowsill, with the window closed down on his legs, and two of them chumps walked by and seen him sitting there thinking, this will look like an accident. And they picked his feet up and shoved him on out his window, and he went over backwards.
Wow.
And needless to say, it killed him.
Yeah.
Okay, that walkway, the wheelchair ramp wasn't down there then. He went clear down to the ground right there. But John Oliver Champ, this was his last bench right there. This was his room. And John Oliver loves country music. I sat in here one night for hours playing country music and singing with him and everything.
Yeah.
He would make the lights go to the music and all that until I made my wise ass remark about Pink Floyd. He didn't like it anymore.
How can you not like Pink Floyd?
I do.
I do too.
Each one of these rooms is just a man's life. I think one of the thugs had this room. Katie doesn't know why, I think, yeah. I said, who else a thug would want their room painted orange? Come here, you can see the barns in here real well. Now they're telling you about Welch getting thrown out the window, through the window, up the top of that
Oh,
barn.
wow, that is a,
That's the one that he threw himself out of with a bale of hay. You reckon that killed him?
yes.
Yeah, it sure world did. I'm pretty, if I had to spend the night, there ain't no way in the world, you'd have to pay me a lot to stay in this room. Cause I think this is a thug's room. I think it might be the same thug that threw old John Oliver out the window. And I don't feel too good about that stupid room right there either. All right, here you go.
Wow.
Oh, we did.
Nick Roth, his last night he was here, this is in a place, this is where he slept.
Who?
Nick Roth, Katrina Weidman, Paranormal Lockdown.
Okay.
This is the last last room he slept in. And on the TV, he said there was more activity going down, up and down that hall than you can imagine. He had trouble sleeping.
Wow.
And that one, the other lady that's with you, I think she's down determined she's gonna sleep in here. I think she's nuts.
Stephanie?
I ain't going to.
Yeah.
And that don't work either, obviously.
Yeah.
And the gate, the door don't lock either. So this will be quick, and then we'll go to the attic,
You put a
okay?
camera down this hole.
Right straight ahead of us is the second floor, men's day room. Okay? This is a mirror image from the downstairs. And right there's the men's second floor church.
So what was the difference between the first?
Previous owner of this place was nuts. He owns Madison Seminary over in Hyann, Adam Kimmel. I do not like Adam Kimmel. He does not like me. So if you ever talk to Adam, you mention me, he'll tell you what he thinks, just like I'm going to. But Adam and his crazy girlfriend, she's nuts, used to do satanic writing all over the walls in this building. This whole door frame is covered in satanic writing. And when Amy Bruni was in here, they actually took holy water and stuff, it was on there in chalk, and they wiped it all off, cleaned it all off. Okay? But they used to play with Ouija board out in here, in this room. I get a lot of people that gets a lot of weird things out of this room, okay? On that wood sill right over there was satanic writing across the bottom of that. And it was in Aramaic, and I had a black guy here from Dayton that could read Aramaic. I said, what does that say? It says Satan walks these lands. I said, well, no kidding, the Bible tells you that. I said, that's pretty obvious. But I went and got some holy water and Lysol and cleaned it off anyhow. I don't like that room. In that room, you'll also see tape, pieces of tape on the floor. Well, I've had camera crews say, stand here, and talk to me. And I keep saying we need to go to another room, because I just don't like this room.
Why does it sound like I just heard somebody scream down there?
Huh?
It sounded like I heard somebody scream down there.
Probably Tina and Stephanie.
That wouldn't surprise me. If you got good ears, you can hear stuff.
Oh, I can hear them anyway.
I heard something, but I thought it was like
I
I thought it was like a big truck or something
Does
going
it
by.
sound like I heard
but-
something go,
If you feel the building vibrating, the semis don't do it. Okay, this is solid as solid can be. Okay, so if you got something vibrating, get the hell out quick.
Right.
Okay. Like I said, that's a church, and there's another ladies' restroom right there. None of these restrooms on this end of the building work. None of them, neither floor.
Just the two in the
Or
front.
just the two in the front. All right, so let's save some time and go on down here. There's another sick room, obviously. Come on in here. You can see how they used to be set up. There's a toilet right there. You see how they used to be set up. And of course, there was running water up here at that time too. And it's just in the sick rooms. And that paint is latex, but the underlayment isn't. Okay? That's how come it's all peeling. But I have no idea who, if anybody, ever died in this room, but I'm sure they did. Okay? That suitcase belongs to one of the residents that was here. They just left it. Okay? In 2010, there was a big auction out here, and they sold everything. That to the public. Here's another ladies' room. You can see some of the fans are melting. You can see how hot it gets in the summer.
Oh, wow. That is
We'll go on, I got about one more stop down here, then we'll go up in the attic. Now, see this room? That's plywood. In 1899, there was no plywood.
Right.
Okay? You see that board? You won't see that in any other room except the one right here next to us. So what that's telling me is this room and the one next to us at one time was one big room. And they put a wall in between it to make two separate rooms. So what was the big room? Once you go to the next room, you'll find out, okay? So let's go to the next room. Now tell me why, Why would you need a nursery in an old folks home? Come on in, folks. Now you're gonna find out what's segregated by gender, okay? In 1913, there's a lady here, she's not a lady, she's only 14 years old. Her name is Lulu Woods. Her mother just passed away, and she got nobody but her stepdad, okay? And so stepdad brings Lulu out here, and they live together. Now this was before segregation. So they put Lulu and stepdad in the same room in 1913. So lo and behold, Lulu gets pregnant. And yes, it is stepdad's. Well, even in 1913, that's not good. So they took stepdad to jail, which I hope the son of a bitch is still there, to be honest with you. I know he's dead, but I hope he's still in jail. I really do. I've got 4 little granddaughters. Somebody do that to them, I'd kill them. Without a doubt, it'd be over. So you got poor Lulu out here, and she, rather than give her baby up for adoption, she keeps it. And she had a little girl, okay? What they had done is they made this 2 rooms. It wasn't 2 rooms, it was one big room. They made it into a nursery. And she had her baby in this room.
Wow.
Okay, well, by her stepdad doing that to her, it messed her up mentally. Okay, then she become kind of susceptible to men. She had 2 more illegitimate babies out here, and she was raped. It was never willing, none of it. And she had 2 more illegitimate babies, and she kept every one of them, all 3 of them. The last 2 were boys. And finally, the commissioners got to the point where saying, that's not what this place is about. And so they come and took her babies away from her. And they took them out to the orphans home out here in Winchester Speedway, which is gone now too. And they put them up for adoption. There's a family by the name of Howell, Howell, that come from Muncie and adopted all 3 of them kids and let her have contact with them the rest of her life. And she died in her early 60s out here. Now, I had some ladies here from Memphis, Tennessee that were very psychic, very mediums, and we were walking down that hall, one of them ricocheted off the wall out there. I said, what in the hell? She says, what are you telling people about Lulu? Who is Lulu? And so I told them the story. She said, Lulu wants you to tell people that she was not the building's tramp. She wants you to know that she was taken advantage of because of her age. And so I never tell people she was a tramp here. She was taken advantage of because of her age. And so them girls, that woman I said about bounced off the wall, they went to Walmart and bought her a bunch of flowers and put them up out there. See, I had to come back in here at night by myself and put them stupid flowers up because them girls made me do it. That gave me the goosebumps from goosebumps on top of goosebumps. I don't like coming in here by myself that much anyhow. I've been doing it for so long. I'm sure the spirits here all know me. As a matter of fact, I know they do. Okay. So Katie, the one you guys have probably talked to, that was on the phone just a little bit ago, Katie's had like 5 kids herself. And so Katie brought this baby bed out here, one of hers, and I think I'm supposed to put that up. But 48 years ago, when my last son, when my son was born, I had to put a baby bed together, and it was a nightmare. And so I said, Katie, unless you make me, that thing's gonna sit right there. I ain't touching it. And it's still sitting there. You still get the idea it's a baby bed.
Sure.
You know what it's about. It's not. So what we're gonna do now, one thing else that I left out, you see the wall's here now. It wasn't. Why do you reckon that wall come up? It wasn't because they needed more room. What happened was Winchester, Indiana, just like any other place. You got a little girl, and she's maybe 14 years old, and she comes home pregnant. You don't want everybody in the county to know it, do you? And so what people used to do is bring the little girl out here and put her in out here until she had the baby. And then it's adopted out straight from here,
Wow.
okay? And then they stay here a little bit longer and they go home and nobody ever knows she ever had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to do that around here. And the commissioners finally said, no, we're done being a baby brothel. It ain't happening. So they put a wall up in there and shut off the nursery. But that's a true story. See, this place wasn't ever looked at all that good. You know, you're either too old to be worth anything or a banana or an alcoholic. And so nobody ever really thought that much about it. And of course, you know, you got nursing homes today. But how many times have you walked down the hall of a nursing home and seen the old guy laying there in bed just kind of doing nothing? He's spaced, you know, but he always looks at somebody when they walk by, don't they? He's just waiting for somebody to come talk to him.
Sure.
And nobody ever does. And that's the way this place was too.
So sad.
There's a lot of sadness in this building. I've had so many people ask me to tear that blind down. I said, I ain't going to. I'd ask too much class to this. That's original. I love it. And you see the paper over the window? That's to keep the light out so the babies in here can sleep. There are a lot of young girls that did have babies and had, or maybe mom and dad threw them out. They had no place to go, and so they came here. That's why the nursery was here. You all ready? We'll go to the we'll go to the attic.
Was this a window?
Was they boarded it up so people wouldn't fall down the steps and go shooting out the window.
Wow.
Wow, this is a big space.
Wow.
All right, now there's part of the attic right there too, but that's beyond the door, so that's superintendent area, okay?
Okay.
So the superintendent stored their stuff in there. All the rest of this is storage and stuff. The infirmary, or they play music, or have little dances and stuff. You see this? They used to raise a lot of popcorn here and sell it. So what they do, they put the popcorn in there and kind of let it dry on the cob. Then they put a sheet down underneath, and this is an old bedspread. Then they shake it, and it shell out onto the sheet down there. Then they put more popcorn in there and shake it some more. That's what both of these are. Now, one thing that I didn't tell you, you see all these uprights right here. They're all over up here, and every one of them's got a tripper on both sides. So remember that they're there. Okay. Hey, my little buddy. He's just part of the show. He's nothing. You see the flower petals on the floor?
Yeah.
You'll see 3 different colors. You'll see pink, blue, and gold. That's how many weddings we've had up here.
Oh, wow.
People rent this, give us money and rent this out to get married up here. Remember talking about that jail cell down in the basement? Where your axe murder type people? Right there is one of the doors off of it. Now, come here with your camera. See this light switch?
Yep.
See what I just turned
Oh,
on?
yeah.
All right, this step down here goes down to the men's second floor church.
Okay.
Okay? And wherever you see the caution tape, just don't go over there.
Okay.
There's a hole in the floor right there. And see that TV antenna? It'll put your eye out.
Okay. All right.
See, we got a TV antenna up here. back in the 1950s when we were all getting television put in our home, these folks out here wanted it too.
Sure.
Well, commissioners wouldn't let them put an antenna up outside on their Romanesque revival architecture.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, but they did look into it and they found out these things called attic antennas. And they found out as long as you didn't have a metal roof, they would work just as good as an outside. And it wasn't a metal roof at that time. It is now, but it wasn't then. So they put these attic antennas in and they work real good. I've actually watched TV out here off of them. They don't work now. The tape's here to keep you from walking into this and putting your eye out. And there's a hole in the floor over there. Now here's one quick story. I don't know if you've ever heard of Christopher Booth or not. The Booth brothers, Christopher and Philip Booth, they've done a lot of things for Sci-Fi Channel and stuff, and written several books and films and everything. Well, they were out here and they were sitting right here, and they had SLS cameras and they're looking for the judge, because this area right here is where the judge held his mock trials. Okay. And they were looking for the judge, and Philip said, look, and I looked over his shoulder or his camera, and there's a stick-figure head coming out from behind that post right there. He said, you reckon that's the judge? And I said, I don't know. He said, you know him, don't you? I said, yeah, I think he should know me by now, as much as I'm out here. He said, go see. So I walked over here. Of course, I can't see him, you know. He said, right there. So I stopped, and I said, Judge, is this? Is you? Come up from behind here so them guys can see you. The cameras they got can't hurt you. You'll be fine. And after I said that, I turned and I walked over here. And I leaned against this chimney just like this. And Philip says, he's following you, Ted. And I said, that's cool. Are you getting to see him? He said, yeah. He says, as a matter of fact, he's leaning against this chimney right beside you. Needless to say, I don't see him.
Right.
Okay. And so I scooted down on the floor to rest, and the next thing you know, I'm sick. I'm going to pass out or throw up or something. And Christopher said, I think he likes you, Ted. He just put his hand on your shoulder.
Wow.
And I'm sitting down there on the floor getting ready to fall over face first. And I said, Judge, I said, my friend, I like you too, but you're going to have to take your hand off of me because you're going to make me sick. And within 10 seconds, I'm feeling fine. I said, okay, where'd he go? And he said he walked back across and went back behind that post, and we don't see him no more. So any skepticism I've ever had went out the window right there. Because I wasn't kidding. I was going to fall over face first right here. And as soon as he took his hand off of me, I was fine.
Wow.
I was fine. But that just hit me like a ton of bricks, like getting hit between the eyes. It really did. So I know the judge is up here. I know he's up here. That convinced me. Judge, they're going to spend the night. They'll be back up here. We can go down to the other end, and then we'll come back out. We'll go down the steps to go out. I'll see if you guys can make it to the front end of the building by yourselves. That's important, believe it or not. Every place there is that caution tape, you're welcome to go. Okay? It's safe, perfectly safe. A lot of people put their chairs in circles right there and have ghost houses and stuff, and they get quite a bit of experience. Your SLS camera will show little children. See, during World War II, when the ladies had the kids out here, well, kids has got to play, and the weather doesn't always cooperate. So they would always let the kids come up here and play. And wouldn't this be a beautiful place to play in? And so your SLS camera will show little kids like monkeys climbing these poles. I've seen them personally. I've seen that on SLS cameras. And yes, there is a surveillance camera. That's one that you can see, but there's several of them that you can't. There's another antenna TV, and there's another TV All that. And there, if you want to see what's the inside of the middle, watch your steps here. If you want to see what's the inside of the middle of the witch's hat tower, that's what's in the middle. And then you can look right straight up and see where we passed the roof, where they put the metal roof.
There's the birdies.
There's probably all kinds of birdies. There used to be a mouse that come out here on a shell and chirp at you. You want me to give you a peanut or M&M's. I think the winter got him. Or something got him. He used to come out and sit right here and chat at church, and he wanted food. I think the winter got him. Watch your step. So I mean, there's these trippers on every outlet. And I set this up for the little kids that were up here. I set up a little Christian song book and a Taco Bell Chihuahua to play with. And it's kind of fun that if you're up here, you're showing people around, they're not standing right around you. I'll sit over here pressing and then walk away. And everybody go, God, what's that? What's that? It's Taco.
Cat on Taco Bell.
And I used to have little balls around here on the floor because I've been told I'm kind of a cat whisperer. I've got countless cats at home that are all outside. I've got 2 in the house, but I've got several of them outside. I take care of them. And I've been told that after they die, they follow me. And I've actually had people swear that they feel a cat rub up against their legs. Rub, you know, like they do.
Yeah.
And wrap her tail up around here. And I had the judge even mention to the fact when they're talking, you know, mention the fact that I attract cats. And so I brought a bunch of little like ping pong balls and stuff up here and threw them down on the floor so the cats can play with them. And then I think Tim must have fell on one of them, so I don't think you'll find them up here anymore. So I'm going to shut this door and we'll go out the other way. Now, when you come up here, right here's the light. Okay.
Okay.
Whenever you come up, right here's the light. And when you shut it off, the LEDs stay on for a long time. When I first shut it off one time here last year, I swear to God there's a UFO. I was convinced. We'll go back out this way. This, in my view, the basement, number 1, the attic, number 2. And the first floor, ladies' side, number 3.
What would be a good place to set up a static camera up here at?
There's outlets right outside that door over there. That you just came up. Just so you can get the whole scene of the
I got you. All right.
Now that ladder is over 100 years old. You see a trap door up there. You see the cupola. It goes up to a flat area that walks all the way around that cupola so you can work on the cupola. That ladder is 100 years old. Do not climb that ladder. Tim went up there like a dumbass. But I ain't going to. As you can tell, I think Tim's pretty stupid. You know, I love him. I really do, but I still think he's crazy. You know. But do not go up there. I don't know where you all heard me a little bit ago, but that door is a jail cell door to that jail cell down in the basement. Okay, so there really was one down there. That's the door to it. All right, y'all ready? Now these steps go down to the men's second floor church. Do not lean to the left because that's a hell of a draw. You're going to need that light. Okay. I was on the bottom step right there once and turned the corner and I banked off of a wall.
Oh, no.
I wasn't on the bottom step. It's very confusing.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Following your light.
This is the men's second floor church right here. All right, now once you get down here, all I can is take off and see if you can make it back to the office.